Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestaya
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestaya
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestaya
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestaya
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana Jaya Jaya Guru Dev Jaya Jaya Gauranga Jaya Jaya Guru Dev Jaya Jaya Gauranga
Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gauranga Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gauranga
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa
Bhakti Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Shri Satananda Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana
Haribo Krishna
Gopala Govinda Rama
Haribo Krishna
Madana Mohana
Haribo
Gopala Govita Rama, Madana Mohana,
Gopala Govita Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govita Rama, Madana Mohana,
Gopala Govita Rama, Madana Mohana,
Krishna,
Gopala Govita Rama, Madana Mohana,
Gopala Govita Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govita Rama, Madana Mohana,
Gopala Govita Rama, Madana Mohana,
Krishna,
Gopala Govita Rama, Madana Mohana,
Gopala Govita Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govita Rama, Madana Mohana,
Gopala Govita Rama,
Krishna,
Madana Mohana,
Krishna,
Gopala Govita Rama,
Krishna,
Madana Mohana,
Gopala Govita Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govita Rama, Madana Mohana,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gauranga,
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gauranga,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Guranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Guranga,
Jaya Jaya Shri Prabhupada,
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Shri Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa,
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa,
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namaste, Gaura Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prestaya Te.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namaste, Gaura Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prasarate.
I'll read here first how we relate to the Supreme Person. How can we reciprocate with the love that He's giving us, embracing us, the gift that He's giving us? How can we be able to be appreciative and take advantage and hold on and embrace that love, the Supreme Person, the holy names, wherein it becomes our life's focus in meditation to come to the point wherein our heart, our love is focused and engaged in doing what is pleasing to Him. So in this age of Kali Yuga, quarrel and confusion, the process to develop affection and love for the Supreme Person is the Sankirtan movement, the holy names, God descending as the holy names. the gift that the pure loving servant of the Supreme Person, his close associate, they give us Krsna, the holy names. Now, how can we be enthused or make progress? It is not to our own power, but rather through Krishna's unconditional love for us. So all what we have to do is to receive the holy names, Lord Krishna's embrace, and chant the holy names. And it will be up to Him to purify our hard heart, to purify our life from the sinful activities we have accumulated through our engagement, to our contact with material nature, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, and devoid of or nil with affection and service to the Supreme Person, because the center of our activities is based upon our own will. So we can check now what separates us from understanding and experiencing God's affection upon us. So the process in this age of quarrel and confusion is God Himself. He comes to purify us. But we must make the move to receive Him. So I'll read here the activities of Lord Krishna, how He protects us, and also our instructing spiritual master guidance through scripture. When we speak of our instructing spiritual master, we're speaking about or talking about or discussing about the confidential loving servant of the Supreme Person, who are all transcendental to this material consideration. They are all resident of the spiritual world, and they are guiding us through their instruction how we can understand and have a comprehensive view or understanding with our situation now, so we can make a decision to make a choice what we want to achieve in life. Service to the Lord. Any recommended path for self-realization can be successful only when it is mixed with devotional service. This was explained by Narada Muni, the spiritual master of Vyasadeva. When Vyasadeva was not satisfied even after compiling heaps of books of Vedic knowledge, Vyasadeva was sitting in a state of depression by the banks of the river Sarasvati. When Narada Muni arrived, upon seeing Vyasa so dejected, he explained the deficiency in the compilation of his various books. He said as follows: even pure knowledge without being completed by transcendental devotional service does not look well. What to speak of fruitive activities when they are not in devotional service? How can they be of benefit to any performer? There are many sages who are expert in performing austerities. Austerities are the sacrifice you do. There are many men who give much charity. There are many famous men, scholars, and thinkers, and those who are expert in the Vedic hymns. All such achievements are certainly very auspicious, but unless they are utilized for attaining devotional service to the Lord, they are unable to award the desired result. Therefore, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukadev Goswami offered his respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord, who is the only one who can award such success. So the Supreme Person, Lord Krishna, he states in Bhagavad Gita, as the living entities who surrender accordingly, they are rewarded accordingly. To those who are constantly devoted to me, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. From me comes remembrance and forgetfulness. So, devotional service begins when we utter or chant the holy names of the Lord. Chanting the holy names of the Lord is devotional service. The more we chant the holy names, which is non-different from God, the Supreme Purifier, we become purified from all the misgivings that we have been covered, we have experienced, that has become a building block to be able to experience the sweetness of rendering loving service to the Supreme Person. The more we chant, the more we become attracted to hearing and listening about the glories of the Supreme Person. We become enthused, or there is an enthusiasm. So it means we're making progress. But if after chanting for so long, we don't make progress, it means there is something wrong with what we're doing, or the focus of what we're doing, the activities we do in regard to the process we're supposed to follow. Then we should check if we're making progress. So I'll read here the importance of listening from someone who is a confidential, loving servant of the Supreme Person, a resident of the spiritual world, the bona fide spiritual master, who has no material consideration, who is master of his senses, and who is able to control the urge to speak, the urge of the mind, the belly, and the genitals. These are some of the qualifications of a bona fide spiritual master. So we can be very safe and be with calm to listen and follow someone who has this qualification. So I'll read the story here of Romaharsan Sutta. Romaharsan Sutta is a disciple of Lord Vyasadeva. And Lord Vyasadeva, his spiritual master, is Narada Muni. So Romaharsan Sutta, who is the disciple of Lord Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of the Supreme Person, should be very learned, should be with spiritual understanding. Meaning, he should be seeing and loving God, because that is the purpose of the instruction of Narada Muni instructing Lord Vyasadeva when he felt there is his lacking in what he's doing. So he was advised by Narada Muni to write and discuss the eternal pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he put into writing Srimad Bhagavatam and topics that are eternally going on, the activities of the Supreme Person, in loving reciprocation with his loving servant, enjoying their loving service. So I'll read here Paramahamsa Sutta. Once upon a time, Lord Balaram heard that there was an arrangement being made for a fight between the two rival parties of the Kuru dynasty. One headed by Duryodhana and the other by the Pandavas. He did not like the idea that he was to be only a mediator to stop the fighting. Finding it unbearable not to take an active part on behalf of either of the parties, he left Dwarka on a plea of visiting various holy places of pilgrimage. Being a warrior, a Kshatriya, he loves to fight, to be in the battlefield. And in this case, the battle of Kurukshetra, two armies fighting, the Kurus and the Pandavas. And on this fight, it will be decided who will be the emperor or who will be the ruler of this world. So all the armies from different countries came there. Some sided with Arjuna, the Pandavas, and the others sided with the Kurus. So Lord Balaram, he is not part of that fight. So he left and traveled and went to holy places. It is stated here, finding it unbearable not to fight, not to take an active part on behalf of either of the parties. He left Dwarka on the plea of visiting various holy places of pilgrimage. He first of all visited the place of the pilgrimage known as Prabhashetra. He took his bath there, and he pacified the local brahmanas and offered oblation to the demigods, the Pitas, great sages, and people in general, in accordance with Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. That is the Vedic method of visiting the holy places. After this, accompanied by some respectable brahmanas, he decided to visit places on the bank of the river Sarasvati. He gradually visited such places as Tritudaka, Vidurasa, Tripakupa, Sudarsanarat Tirtha, Bilasa Tirtha, Brahmana Tirtha, and Chakra Tirtha. Besides this, he also visited all the holy places on the bank of Sarasvati, river running towards the east. After this, he visited all the principally holy places on the bank of the Jamuna and on the bank of the Ganges. Thus he gradually came to the holy place known as Naimisaranya. This holy place, Naimisaranya, is still existing in India, and in ancient times it was specially used for the meetings of great sages and saintly persons, with the aim of understanding spiritual life and realization. So there is a gathering of saintly persons. When Lord Balaram visited that place, there was a great sacrifice being performed by great assembly of transcendentalists. Such meetings were planned to last thousands of years. When Lord Balaram arrived, all the participants of the meeting, great sages, ascetic, brahmanas, and learned scholars, immediately arose from their seat and welcomed him with great honor and respect. Some offered him respectful obeisances, and those who were elderly great sages and brahmanas offered him blessings by standing up. After this formality, Lord Balaram was offered a suitable seat, and everyone present worshipped him. Everyone in the assembly stood up the presence of Balaram because they knew him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Education or learning means to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, although Lord Balaram appeared on earth as a Kshatriya or a warrior, all the brahmanas and sages stood up because they knew who Lord Balaram was. Unfortunately, after being worshipped and seated at his place, Lord Balaram saw Paramahamsa Sutta, the disciple of Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of Godhead, is still sitting on the Vyasadan. He had neither gotten up from the seat nor offered him respects, because he was seated on the Vyasasan. He foolishly thought himself greater than the Lord. Therefore, he did not get down from his seat or bow down before the Lord. Lord Balaram then considered the history of Romaharshan. He was born in a Sutta family or a mixed family born of a Brahmana woman and a Kshatriya man. Therefore, although Romaharshan considered Balaram a Kshatriya, he should not remain sitting on a higher seat. Lord Balaram considered that Romaharshan, according to his position by birth, should not have accepted the higher sitting position, because there were many learned Brahmanas and sages present. He also observed that Romaharshan Sutta, not only did he come down from his exalted seat, but he did not even stand up and offer his respect when Balaram entered the assembly. Lord Balaram did not like the audacity, kayabangan, his arrogance of Romaharshan Sutta, and he became very angry with him. When a person is seated on the Vyasasan, he does not generally have to stand up to receive a particular person entering the assembly. But in this case, the situation was different, because Lord Baladev is not an ordinary human being. Therefore, although Romaharshan Sutta was voted to Vyasasan by all the Brahmanas, he should have followed the behavior of other learned sages and Brahmanas who were present, and should have known that Lord Balaram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Respects are always due to him, even though such respect can be avoided in any case of an ordinary man. The appearance of Krishna and Balaram are specially meant for establishment of religious principles, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. The highest religious principle is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is also confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam that the topmost perfection of religiousness is to be engaged in devotional service. So, when Lord Balaram came to Naimisaranya forest in that sacrifice, they were performing, and they will be discussing the glories of the Supreme Person. Why? When Lord Balaram saw that Romaharshan Sutta did not understand the highest principles of religiousness in spite of having studied all the Vedas, he certainly could not support his position. Romaharshan Sutta had been given a chance to become a perfect Brahmana, but because of his ill behavior in his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his low birth was immediately remembered. Romaharshan Sutta had been given the position of a Brahmana, but he had not been born in the family of a Brahmana. He had been born in a Pratiloma family. According to Vedic concept, there are two kinds of mixed family marriage, heritage. They are called Anuloma and Pratiloma. When a male is united with a female of a lower caste, the offspring is called Anuloma. But when a male unites with a woman of a higher caste, the offspring is called Pratiloma. Romaharshan Sutta belongs to the Pratiloma family because his father was a Kshatriya and his mother was a Brahmana. His mother a Brahmana. Because Romaharshan transcendental realization was not perfect, Lord Balaram remembered his Pratiloma heritage. The idea that any man can be given the chance to become a Brahmana, but if he improperly uses the position of a Brahmana without actual realization, then his elevation to the Brahminical position is not valid. After seeing the deficiency of the realization in Romaharshan Sutta, Lord Balaram decided to chastise him for being pop-up. Lord Balaram therefore said, "This man is liable to be awarded the death punishment, because although he has the good qualification of being a disciple of Lord Vyasadeva, and although he has studied the Vedic literature from the exalted personality, he was not submissive in the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead." As stated in Bhagavad Gita, a person who is actually a Brahmana and is very learned must automatically become very gentle also. In this case, Romaharshan Sutta, although he was very learned and had not been given a chance, and had been given a chance to become a Brahmana, he did not become gentle. From this we can understand that when one is pop-up or arrogant by material acquisition, he cannot acquire the gentle behavior befitting a Brahmana. The learning of such person is as good as a valuable jewel decorating the hood of a serpent. Despite the valuable jewel on the hood of a serpent is still a serpent and is as fearful as an ordinary serpent. If a person does not become meek and humble, all his studies of the Vedas and Puranas and his vast knowledge in the Shastra become simply outward dress, like the costume of a theatrical artist dancing on a stage. Lord Balaram began to consider this. Lord Balaram began to consider this. I have appeared in order to chastise the false person who are internally impure, but externally poses themselves to be very learned and religious. My killing of such person is proper to check them from further sinful activity. Lord Balaram had avoided taking part in the battle of Kurukshetra, and yet because of his position, the reestablishment of religious principle was his prime duty. Considering this point, he killed Romarsan Sutta by simply striking him with a kusad grass. He got this kugon grass and he pierced the heart of Romarsan Sutta. He killed Romarsan Sutta simply by striking him with a kusa straw, which was nothing but a blade of grass. If someone questioned how Lord Balaram could kill Romarsan Sutta simply by striking him with a blade of grass, the answer is given in Srimad Bhagavatam by the use of the Prabhu, Master. The Lord's position is always transcendental, and because He is omnipotent, He can act as He likes without being obliged to the material laws and principles. Thus, it was possible for Him to kill Romarsan Sutta by striking him with a blade of grass. At the death of Romarsan Sutta, everyone present became much aggrieved, and there was roaring and crying. Although all the Brahmanas and sages present knew the Lord Balaram to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they did not hesitate to protest the Lord's action and humbly submitted. Our dear Lord, we think that your action is not in line with the religious principle. Lord Yadunandana, we may inform you that we Brahmanas posted Romarsan Sutta on the exalted position for the duration of this great sacrifice. He was seated on the Vyasasan by our election, and when he is seated on the Vyasasan, it is improper for him to stand up to receive a person. Moreover, we awarded Romarsan Sutta an undisturbed duration of life. Under the circumstances, since your Lordship has killed him without knowing all these facts, we think that your action has been equal to that killing of a Brahmana. Dear Lord, deliverer of all fallen souls, we know certainly that you are the knower of all Vedic principles. You are the master of all mystic powers. Therefore, ordinarily, the Vedic injunction cannot be applied to your personality. But we request that you show causeless mercy upon others by kindly atoning for the killing of Romarsan Sutta. So, Lord Balaram killed Romarsan Sutta, and the story during that time, what happened was, since Romarsan Sutta is a disciple of Lord Vyasadeva, he's sitting on the Vyasasan, and he's sitting on the seat of Vyasasan supposedly to pass on the teachings of Lord Vyasadeva about the glories of the Supreme Person. So he must be seeing, knowing the Supreme Person. So when Lord Balaram came in the assembly of sages, he was not able to see Krishna or Lord Balaram. He just sat down there. All the saintly person bowed down, offer respect, because the Supreme Person, Lord Balaram, non-different from Lord Krishna, came to the assembly. Lord Krishna or Lord Balaram is very merciful. Lord Krishna descend or come to this material world to establish religion. When we speak of religion, it's not joining a group. It is not the temple. When speak about religion, it is about what is inseparable from us, Sanatan Dharma, or our natural function and activity to render loving service to the Supreme Person. And the reason we are separated from this world of pure devotional service is because we are not in line or in harmony with our true eternal function as eternally the loving servant of God. And that we can check in our lives. So Lord Balaram, out of compassion for the living entities, for us who are here, he won't allow someone who is a demon, who does not know God, who has no love for God, to be the one guiding, speaking about the glories of God. How can he speak about the glories of God when he cannot see God? He has no loving relationship with God. So, there was a time that when our instructing spiritual master translated all the books into English, the teachings of Lord Vyasadeva, the literal incarnation of God, in English language. So the English language became the garland as a wreath to glorify the Supreme Person. Now it has value. So our instructing spiritual master wrote so many books. And the main reason is to glorify the Supreme Person, so we can know more about the Supreme Person, to be in contact with Him, about His qualities, understanding Him, so we can be purified by reading, by understanding, by glorifying His pastimes. Because the process itself will be the beginning of our relationship with God. And it will become our eternal engagement, because that is our true eternal activity, to render loving service. So this person sitting on the Vyasasan is not really the representative of Lord Vyasadeva. He cannot see God. And he's supposed to discuss spiritual matters. So the process we are following is based upon the descending method, not the ascending method. Romarsan Sutta, suppose he is very fortunate because he's a disciple of Lord Vyasadeva. And he should be very learned. But it is described here by Narada Muni that without devotional service, even wisdom, without devotional service, without pure devotional service or love, is not very attractive. That's why he advised Lord Vyasadeva to write about the science of pure devotional service. But it's unfortunate that this person sitting on the Vyasadan, supposedly to speak about love for God, has no love for God. So when Lord Balaram saw him, he killed him and took him, and he said, "What I did should not be imitated." Hindi natin dapat imitate. Only God can do that. God can appoint, but we, the living entities, cannot do that. And he said, Ugrasrava Sutta, who is his son, He appoints him to speak and continue the process that they will be engaging in to learn and understand the science of devotional service. Appointment. To be appointed. Di ba? You see? Because that's the problem. Why did our instructing spiritual master, Lord Vyasadeva, wrote and put the teachings about the spiritual world, the science of pure devotional service in writing? He wrote so many books. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So all of us can learn and understand about the glories of the Supreme Person. So there are individuals, some individuals who appointed themselves when the instructing spiritual master, their initiating spiritual master left the planet. They now appointed themselves as the representative of Lord Vyasadeva and Krsna. They appointed themselves. They voted themselves into position. So that is wrong. The spiritual master wrote so many books. He's not lacking with wisdom and understanding because he's the representative of God. He accepted thousands of disciples. He passed on Krsna to innumerable living entities, meaning all of us can be resituated in our natural, transcendental position and function as eternally the loving servant of God. All of us, you, all of you. Because he could have simply said, why write so many books about the glories of God? He could have simply said, these 12 individuals will be my successor. I appoint them. He did not do that. He said, when he was asked this question at the time, by this person, he said, who will be your successor? Because he's leaving the body now. He's passing. And he said, all of my disciples, all of you, provided you follow the process. So meaning, if we come in contact with the pure loving servant of the Supreme Person, and we engage in activities under his instruction to purify our heart, to be connected in parallel, in harmony with the desire, what is pleasing to God, to do his will, all of us can be situated in our eternal, true activities as pure loving servant of God. He does not make distinction. These 12 will be the one. He wrote thousands of, he gave thousands of lectures, canvassing living entities about opening up their eyes, all of us. The reason we are here now listening to this science is because of his magnanimity, his benevolence, his mercy. Because he loves us. He's the representative, the personification of God's compassion and love. But this person, Romaharsan Sutta, he's so arrogant and pop up. He's blinded. He cannot see. Who will give you the vision, all of us, to see God? God himself. So if one is fortunate to come in contact, it is described in Scripture, by the mercy of God, one comes in contact with his pure loving servant. The living entity, all of us, we are seekers of pleasure. Ananda. Lahat tayo, we're looking for pleasure. And in the course of our travel in this universe, in this material world, we're traveling with this body, this machine. Some living entities are very fortunate to come in contact with the representative of God. And if they take advantage of the wisdom, the teaching, the love that is being given, the gift, the embrace of God, His desire, His wish, His love, and take advantage of that, then they're very fortunate. So that is the difference between someone who is a representative of God. He loves us unconditionally. He introduces us to Krishna because he understands, he knows Krishna can protect us. So our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, the dearmost disciple of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, he follows this path, the descending process. And now he's making so much effort to assist us to be connected with this love. The question now is, will we take advantage and take this great opportunity to taste that affection and be able to render loving service to God? So we look closely here that the science that we are following is not based upon material acquisition, fame, material consideration. Not only that, God is complete. He's the cause of all causes. He does not need our service. He's self-sufficient. But because we are not self-sufficient, we need someone to love. We need someone to render loving service. So we must be with wisdom, with this transcendental truth, that can only be mitigated and be in harmony, and we can achieve success when we are in harmony with that transcendental wish, transcendental desire of the Supreme Person of rendering loving, pure devotional service. All of us are looking for happiness. We're seeking pleasure. But the greatest pleasure is rendering loving service to the Supreme Person. So the process we follow is not based upon appointment. But Lord Krishna can appoint someone to represent Him. Just like what Lord Balaram did. So this teaching, this process of appointing or hereditary, my father is a Vaishnava or a representative of God. And then, what happens is that they're thinking that, oh, I'm now entitled. I'm the representative of God because my father is the representative of God. Not knowing that we are all individuals. Your father, your physical, the father of this body in this world, can be a great Vaishnava or a pure lover of God. But that doesn't mean that if you don't follow the process through blood relationship, you are now a devotee of God. You are the representative of God. It's not that. The process is the descending method. You have to sit down and listen, just like Lord Vyasadeva sat down and listened to Narada Muni, instruction of Narada Muni, and he followed that. So that is the process, descending process. It's not an ascending method. It's not based upon material consideration. But there's one thing I want to discuss here with you, all of us here. So we can see that the work, our Gurudev, the instructing spiritual master, they come to this world out of compassion for us. They care, they love us, and they want us to bring us back to the shelter of that transcendental world of pure devotional service. So when we make progress, we begin to experience, when we make progress towards affection, doing the will of the Supreme Person, and we are engaged in the purificatory process of chanting the holy names, this hard heart we have, this cold heart we have, we begin to experience care for others. The fruit of love for God is completely and diametrically contradictory to what material lust is. When one comes in contact with this affection and he experiences the happiness of being in contact with experiencing the embrace of God, he now sees the suffering of others. And now he understands, I'm just sitting in this machine, and because of my because I'm identifying with the source of suffering, I'm suffering. But if we identify ourselves with our true eternal nature as eternally the loving servant of God, light, transcendental, another energy, not matter, then we can now be with wisdom where we can seek and find happiness. So this wisdom is eternal and transcendental. It will be the saving grace. And what is that saving grace? It will connect us with what we're longing for, Krishna. And Krishna will be the beginning and will be the all in all. When we chant the holy names, we enter that world. Krishna himself allows us to enter the world, provided we follow the process. Not based upon what Lord Balaram stopped. The person sitting on the holy seat of Lord Vyasadeva, the seat of God, to teach about God, doesn't know anything about God. So that we should check in our life whom we are following, whom we are listening. Because a person who is not loving God cannot teach you anything about God. God is a mystery to him. What faculty does he use to ascend, to understand God? His imperfect senses. He cannot even see. That's why the first process we do is the engaging in the chanting of the holy names to purify us from this material misconception of false bodily identification. Because from that understanding and realization, we can now understand our true nature as eternally the loving servant of God. So when a person poses himself as the representative of God and he does not know who he is, how can he guide you? He doesn't even know who he is. He blabbers teachings that has no value. He teaches. I was asking this person before, how can we know God? God is a mystery. You cannot see him. All you got to do is, pray. That is not our process. The process is that we must become purified from this material consideration to be able to see our true nature, to be with wisdom, so we can be guided. Because now, our eyes, which has been our eyes, our ears, we are all blind. But the spiritual master is a spiritual healer who opens our spiritual eye We can see now. We are all deaf. We cannot hear. Through the process of the hearing and chanting, we can see with our spiritual eye, with our true nature. Now we can hear. Then we can walk. Who can walk in the path of spiritual life? A person who is blind, who does not see God, cannot do that. That's why Lord Balaram, out of his love and compassion for us, this person, posing himself as the guide who is blind, will bring us into oblivion, bring us nowhere. This kind, gentle people who are sincere in seeking the truth. So he took him away from that seat, killed him, and appointed Ugrasrabha Sutta, who is his son, who is qualified. And the qualification is coming from God. Spiritual life is a very serious process because it is concerned about your well-being. So will you put your life in someone's hands who is also blind? So try to ponder upon it. And there, you know what? When Lord Chaitanya came here 500 years ago, he instructed Lord Nityananda, Balaram, and our instructing spiritual master, Haridas Thakur, the spiritual master, Namacharya of the holy names, to go out and canvass and invite everyone to sing and chant the holy names. They came in contact with Jagad and Madai. And Jagad and Madai, their character, their, it's not wholesome. They're rapists, murderers, drunkard, vicious. Wherever they go, people run away. Jagad and Madai is coming, so they stay away from these two guys. But when Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda saw them, and they said, these two individuals, they're the prime candidate to chant the holy names. So Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya, Haridas Thakur came here to save the most fallen. And they see Jagad and Madai, they're the most fallen. We should invite them to chant. In the beginning, when they came there, because they cannot see that care and love of Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, they drove them away and wanted to hurt them. So they stayed away. But the next day they came back. And because these two guys are here again, so one of the brothers threw a pot on the head of Lord Nityananda. And because playing as an ordinary person, it bled profusely. And it came to the hearing of Lord Chaitanya that Jagad and Madai hurt Lord Nityananda. So out of his anger of what they did to Lord Nityananda, he went there with his Sudarshan chakra, at what we have discussed yesterday. And when Jagad and Madai saw Lord Chaitanya, Krsna in anger, they became so afraid. Death personified is in front of us. But Lord Nityananda stopped Lord Chaitanya from cutting off their head. Said, my dear Lord, please forgive them. They are prime candidates to receive the holy names. So, from these pastimes, we can understand that the bona fide spiritual master, the representative of God, God Himself, is like a rain cloud. When it rains in the desert, in the ocean, everywhere. So this teaching, how we can be in connection, in harmony with God's love, tasting ananda, or the pleasure of rendering loving service to the Supreme Person, is given freely by the pure loving servant of God. So we must become purified from this material consideration. What hinders us from focusing and being connected with that world? It is our meditation, what we focus, what we put our time. So if we just simply follow the teachings of the confidential, loving servant of the Supreme Person, to chant the holy names and engage in the 9th process of devotional service, then the path we are following will be achieved smoothly. But if we don't have time and focus upon receiving that mercy and love, then what will happen? Even though we come in contact with this mercy, with their benevolence, with their kindness, with this love, we will not be able to appreciate it because our heart has become it's not purified. So we may come in contact with the spiritual master, given opportunity to pass on the holy names, but we don't have that compassion and care for others. So it means we're not making progress. We have no compassion. Not only that, we look at everyone with a critical eye because our eyes have not become purified. We look at everybody's imperfection and we try to put them in a box of who can be with God. So this appointment, material appointment, this hereditary process is wrong and false. So we should not fall into this wrongness or falsehood of appointed acharya and hereditary acharya, because Lord Chaitanya's teaching is based upon all of us. By my command, be guru. Alam niyo yung guru? You are guru comes, yung guru kayo eh, guru. Guru. By my command, be guru. Not play guru, but rather love Krishna and pass on this love to everyone. So when one is sincere and trustworthy to follow the teachings of the spiritual master, then he can be very focused in that world. He will not be diverted. So we can discuss more about this because we have to see if we're making progress. So tomorrow, let's continue this subject matter about appointment, acharya, and how we are making progress towards the path we are following and we are trying to learn. Are we really understanding? Are we really making progress? Then we can check and we can appreciate and take advantage of this human form of life and the intelligence we have. Where will we repose and direct the energy that is eternally inseparable from us, life? So that will be up to us. Tomorrow, let's continue. Haribol Namaste. Let's have a short talk.
Krishna Nayanya.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayana. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayana.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadara, Shri Vasade Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadara, Shri Vasade Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Krishna,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna,
Hare Rama,
Krishna,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Krishna,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gauranga.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Guranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Guranga.
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada,
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada,
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Shri Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Shri Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Nami Ora Karuna Sampaya Hare Krishna Prestaya